Today's devotion is entitled Let's Get Into Good Trouble. I know what you are thinking. Good trouble might seem like an oxymoron. How can good and trouble go together? It's like oil and water, they will never mix together. You get praise for being good, and you get punishment for getting into trouble. However, good trouble simply means to get into trouble for being good or doing good. Don't be afraid to get into good trouble. Living out good trouble can cause you great trouble. When we fail to recognize the needs of others, when we fail to look out for those we are responsible for, when we forget our mission and become complacent doing things as usual, there needs to be some good trouble. We see in Matthew chapter 21 verses 12 and 13 that Jesus also got into good trouble. Jesus went into the temple of God and drove out all those who bought and sold in the temple, and overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. And he said to them, "It is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves." Again in Matthew chapter 12 verses 9 to 13, we see Jesus heals a man with a withered hand on the Sabbath and got into trouble with the religious leaders for doing good on a day of rest. On the contrary, once our son was running very high temperature on a Sunday. I called up his pediatrician, hoping to get some medical advice. However, he refused to even listen to me since it was his off day. God's laws are meant to be followed, but they are also meant to be understood. Just as God's laws are meant to avoid trouble, they are also meant to get us into good trouble, or simply said, doing good when the situation requires it, if it is in our power to do so. Galatians 6 verse 9 affirms this, "And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap, if we do not give up." In a day and age we live in, there are ample opportunities to get into good trouble. The good in this case could be showing mercy, exercising kindness and goodness, lending a helping hand, or just being peacemakers. If it's within your power to do good, but you do nothing about it because the laws forbid you to work on the Sabbath, you have failed to understand His command. It's important to understand that Jesus is not teaching that observing the Sabbath is wrong, nor is He suggesting that the literal meaning of any law is unimportant. The Sabbath was one of God's great gifts to Israel. However, the requirement not to work was intended to bring God's people rest, not to add to their burden. John Robert Lewis, former US congressman, has said it beautifully. If you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have a moral obligation to do something about it. So friends, get out of your comfort zone. Get out there and push and stand up and speak out and get in the way. Get into trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble. The decision you make today doesn't just affect you. It can affect your generations to come. Sometimes believers in Christ can get into good trouble, doing what honors Him, but what might not make certain people happy as they help others in need. Do it anyway. Get into good trouble.